go, get that over with. That's the first one. Well, not really. Yeah. No, there was one earlier. There was a vortice earlier than that one, before that one happened. So now we're going to get on the next vortice. Vortex. They keep doing that. Trying to keep goofing up and get plural. Okay, vortex naked. Sugar has I hear a dog. What's dog doing? More sugar. So today, guess what we're doing? We're going to tell you a story. We are going to tell you a story about a vortex. There's lots of vortexes. Today's vortex topic is a particular kind of vortex. It's called a relationship vortex. You know what? We got this camera. We got this thing right away. Oh, there's red. Now we can see red. We came across. This is old. It's been a while. Kind of been around a while. It's been around a while, but it's new to me. It uses batteries, but we got a new one. This does video. So we have an upgrade. I think. Well, maybe it isn't an upgrade. I don't know what the pixel count is on that thing. I don't know if that does any better than one of these does. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. It's a camera angle. Now we have a camera angle 1, camera angle 2, camera angle 3. We can shoot something in 4 angles at once. Oh, we have the Pentax. We can do stills. Camera 5, angle 5. Oh, here we go. So here's how this story starts. It starts with person A and person B. And person A and person B find each other. It's called a relationship. They get together, they start doing the doo da, and all that other stuff. Okay? Yeah, I'm just using tap water, hot water, water here. There's a vortex. Now they got that vortex done. Well, we made some more of these doodads. Let me show you this one. This one's got like some rocks in it. So there's the next vortex. And then here is this vortex. Now, check it out. It's got some rocks and stuff in the bottom. Hang it down. There, that's a good shot. Now watch. We're going to run this bubble in the top. Okay? And warble this bubble. Just like that. Watch it touch down. There, see it making a funnel? There it goes. See it pulling it up? There it is. roof of the house. And so this has some BBs in it. It has aluminum foil in it. So what we're planning, we're actually planning a nice, cool experiment, demonstration experiment. You guys, beans, yeah. I'll be right there. I'm doing something. Let's see, we'll take this marijuana, grind it. Right? Put that on the pipe, in the pipe, bottom of the bowl. Okay, let's go. And then here on top, put some Diamond Master and some blueberry, blackberry lemonade. There's a blueberry lemonade. Blackberry lemonade. All right, we got our blackberry lighter for our blackberry lemonade. Pretend we're gonna get a call on a blackberry. Okay, blackberry, blackberry. What's it? Oh, blackberry. That says something. Oh, blackberry. Bam, bam. So, person A, person B meet. They get together. Are we audio on? Okay, we got audio. All right. So person A and person B get together, start doing the nasty. Okay. Person B has children, grown children, not, but still living with them. Person B. So we introduce this person as person C. Person C is the person. I'll explain it this way. That could look interesting. All right, so person A, person B. They start arguing and they go around and around like that bubble. See? What happens is the wake comes down on person C like a vortex. And it's really damaging. It's really damaging on person C. Really, it's damaging on person A and B too. You know, if there was a way that couples could ever look in the future, and see how their relationship is going to come out, you know, find out how many arguments they were going to have. Find out if they're going to eventually split up, because that's how that worked. Was ultimately just like a house that's at the bottom, at that when that when that vortex comes down, because see, as it starts, as the centrifugal force starts spreading the fluid outward this way, it cavitates against, because it flows out against all the mass that was otherwise that would otherwise not be disturbed by it. How to say that? Okay. Anyway, all the material that's already there is there representing the pressure front. See, so what happens is it creates a cavitation against the pressure front, and centrifugal force works and at it, and because it's in an angle, the Euler force either causes material to, well, if it's just starting, generally there's not enough to cause material to rise up. But as the velocities of the opposing flows, or what we call, say, dissimilar flows, they could be in the same direction. One could be five, one could be 1 meter per second, and the other is 15 meters per second. The result is, what did I say, 1 and 15? I don't remember. Too early for numbers. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So just let's use 1 and 15. A 1 meter per second breeze, okay, and then a 15 meter per second breeze, and there's a difference of 14 meters per second, and it will tend to, if there's a vortice that's generated at the difference zone, or the differential zone, or whatever you want to call it, the point where there's differential vertical pressures, it'll make a vortice because of gravity. Gravity's pulling down all the gases, okay, and or the fluids in the case of the water. See, that's why they make a funnel, because gravity's pulling down equally on everything. So when that happens and it starts to cavitate, it's easier to cavitate the stuff in the higher altitudes or the higher depths in the case of water or something. In this case, of the water, the upper depth is easier to cavitate than the lower depth because of gravity. It's actually a great way to demonstrate gravity, the the actual strength of gravity, because it takes so many newtons, it takes so many joules of force, this way, out that way, to make it cavitate, to move so much fluid out, to have it to displace such an amount of mass in order to make the vortice in the first place. So it takes an amount of energy. Thing is that it doesn't seem like it takes a lot when you're doing this in your hand, because, well, see, if you do it a while, you'll realize it does take a lot. Ouch. No, not really. But yeah, you can develop this toy could could cause you to develop carpal tunnel syndrome. So you get watching it so fascinating. It's like, oh wow, oh wow, look at that. Okay, so what we're gonna do? See, we're gonna make some. We're gonna have them for sale at this farmers market every Saturday when it opens back up at the end of the at the or well, we're gonna do some. We're gonna have our own yard. We have our own yard over here. We do yard sales in. We're gonna do it's like flea market on the weekends. It's actually what's gonna go on. But so I got these things. I got a version that's ran by a wind anemometer, and so we figured it out this way. Pretty cool, huh? They just think like this. The jar weighs a certain amount, right? We'll figure it out as we get to it. When the jar weighs a certain amount of water, we put it on a pivoter, on a bearing, so it can warble on a bearing, right? Okay, and then it's get like make this rack the thing goes in, and the anemometer impeller is right here above it, and it comes down and you grab a hold of it. Actually, you don't even have to be above it. The bottom line is that it warbles the jar as the wind starts. It warbles the jar at the same rate. The bubble goes around at the same velocity uh, that the impeller is. So because the impeller goes around at a certain frequency, and it's covering a certain amount of distance here, you can calculate how fast the wind's going. Just like that, super easy, right? So then I thought, okay, yeah, so as a product, we get these labels once we have a calibration, or we calibrate it to the label. It'd be easier to just create the thing and then make the label to fit it. Okay, we run a test and see, blah blah, and just make the label. That's how manufacturers do it. We're a manufacturer, no physicist. Okay, just get that straight. Okay, we're working on the research and development and manufacturing of the G units, which is we affectionate call it the GALT unit. It harnesses the power of the tornado, okay, to create artificial gravity this way, like that, lots of it, and not much this way, because you can't do much this way. It's got to have the ratio that makes it work is the helicopter. Helicopters do it. The motor produces more power at the blade than in terms of thrust, okay, than the thing weighs in equivalency, then more power than the whole craft weighs, so that it can accelerate upwards. It's got to produce more than its own weight. Anyway, so the G unit, we affectionately call it the G unit. Well, we've been calling the GALT unit. We call it, well, G stands for Galileo. It uses that. So as we were saying the other day, electromagnets, pole pieces, they're all stacked with stacked motors, different kinds of motors. And the very top one is one I created, which is it's a stepped pole, it's a skipped pole stepper motor. And basically what it does is it skips over the pole, compensates for the collapsing field. So it allows the opportunity to move the stuff at a faster velocity here. And so at the very top, it's like near 90 degrees, and then it tapers off here to a funnel to allow the dispersion of the material out at an angle of incidence. So angular relative mass here added to the relative mass that's produced in acceleration up out of the funnel, that's produced by the Euler force, produces the sum. Well, actually, and then this acceleration is negative acceleration. So it's compensated for by orders of magnitude of relative mass that's achieved angularly, horizontally this way, at angle W, WXYZ. Is that enough? Yeah, so angle W, angle X, angle Y, angle WXY, UVW, UVWXY. Oh, I'm ready to scatter, but I need more coffee yet. More marijuana, more coffee. Calm it down. Oh, where's my? Oh, here. This one. This helps. This helps. Here, see, this is my morning vortex right here. Just getting my brain to where it's like, getting the. Okay, let me explain it this way. You know what it's like. You know what it's like when you get 15 people in a panel discussion on a stage. This is that Prazodone, by the way. It's an antipsychotic. I'm not you one of those. We're not one of those murderous psychotics. We're not a murderer or nothing. Don't be afraid of us, okay? And just because we look like a girl, we got boy parts, and they took our girl parts when we were a baby. We cut it away. Well, we have in our small intestine, we have a little bit of uterus, so we end up with a period every month, and it doesn't seem real regular, but it takes a little while sometimes for the blood to work its way through the intestines. So ours varies by, it's like this, a little wide sometimes, a little skinny in the dates. Ours this time came just a little earlier, but it was doing stuff and with my thing, my manually powered thing, because the power the powered one broke again, broke another one. I had this really good vibrator. Oh, I could go get it. Let me go get this thing. Hold on. Let me show you this. You'll get a kick out of this. Here it is. This thing. You've seen these before. Here, I took it apart because I got the motor out of it. You know, here's one of those. It had this pad on it, and interchangeable parts. Really nice. And it, speed control. Now it's got the motor. I'll use this motor. The motor's good for some cool stuff. It's got a speed control, off and on switch. I'll make that into a into a science motor. Okay, I put it on a rack or something. Make a Vorta C driver out of it. Huh? I'm going to tell you about that project in a second. This thing we're going to do is part of our R&D for all this stuff. Okay, part of our studies that we need to go through. See, as a manufacturer, what we do, we learn what we need to know, build what we need to build, put it on the market, and then move on. And we're so good at what we do that once we create something, there's anyway, yeah. So create what we're gonna create, and start selling it. This is the we're still working out names. Okay, we really like the flagship, the Space Viper for the flagship. Anyway, yeah. So what we did, we got this thing here. Get out and put it down. We broke it. We have a Sawzall. We make an adapter for it, but we're worried about we use the Sawzall too much doing different jobs, different building stuff. So we're worried. We don't want to risk that. Afraid we'll break the Sawzall. We had a jigsaw. We made an adapter for it. See, the thing is, see what it is that they took our parts. They took the female parts out when I was a baby because it was infused. My uterus had an infusion into my intestines. So they took all that out, did a full hysterectomy, sewed it up, and then branded me a boy, gave me the name, gave me the boy's name. So what we do now, physically, we divide ourselves up purposefully and to maybe help the world to understand. We divide ourselves up into all the skeletal and the muscle stuff that has the female shape. Okay, we say, okay, so we're female with some manly hands and some manly feet and kind of a manly face, and Adam's apple. Okay, with a built-in boyfriend. Good. Okay. So, but what we need is we call it an episiotomy, or we could call it whatever, addatotomy. Okay, open that hole up. That's all that needs to happen. The hole's there. So what ends up happening is we take tools and devices, our fingers and whatever, we stretch that stuff up in here, we stick it and we push it in, and we get sore. But also, because you've got to stretch it, it takes up so much energy to get it up in there, get to the spot, because that spot is almost unreachable. But it is reachable. So thank God it's reachable. So we've been able to get our female nut on, which is way more intense than the male nut. But see, if you can explain it that way, because we have a female physiology coupled to a male physiology. It's hard for normal people to wrap their head around because they were taught by the religious. I call them heretics. Everybody that ever called a heretic is a heretic. Everybody that ever called anyone else a heretic is a heretic. Okay, because they know not the true heart of the Godhead. Who has been with you since the start of time? Who's been with us? Actually, they don't understand that thing they call God, the root of all is that they refer to. Okay, the root of all existence is in fact all of us. You see, well, that was the new religion. See that Neil deGrasse Tyson and Chuck Nice and all them, they're on their show, they're talking about it, make it the new religion, and I responded back in the comments. It's like, Yeah, here it is. The faith in the philosophy of science and physics. It's a it's a it's a physics. It's a science-based religion. So here's how it works. See now, in order to make it work, I had to revise their string theory. I had to take string theory into a new light and go, okay, well, what if the strings? What if it is strings, but it's tiny little short strings? They're not connected to each other, like hairballs to little hairs. Okay, we'll call it the string hairs, hair string theory, if you want. The hair string is hypothesis at the moment, but you see, the thing is that if you if you quantize it and you do the math works because here's how this works. And if you've ever owned a pet, see where I'm if you've ever owned a pet, you understand it like I do, like this. When you see a puff of hair, a little ball of hair float past your eyes like a little tiny black hole floating by a screenshot of deep space, but you can see this one. You just don't see. You can't. You're not just seeing lensing. You're seeing the puffball. So you can see this puffball fly by, and you know it came from your animals, from your lint, from the lint from your clothes, from everything that ever happens in your house. Yes, it came from that. And it came because vibrations in the air, not unlike the Casimir force and vibrations in quantum vacuum. That's a whole nother deal. You could look that one up. Uh, so the paper written in 2004 about it. The association of the relationship of the Casimir force, the Casimir force as related to gravity. So yeah, this is a quantum level. It works that way. The large frequencies on the outside, the shorter wavelengths can't get between them, because the ones that are reflected anyway, the ones that are absorbed go through them, you know, you know, resonate. The ones that don't vibrate off of the ones that don't can't get between two objects and they get pushed together. Okay, the air does that to the hairballs. So now here we're back to this, back to the new religion. So let's start this. In order to make this work, we had to think of string theory a little differently. In order to connect it to the standard model, in order to connect the string theory to the AM theory, the AM principle, the AM principle is, well, we are all AM. We're not necessarily always conscious. Our consciousness comes from our connection to the world and our awareness, and so that makes, according to that in our religion, then uh, um, uh, the here and now, the reality we can touch and feel and sense when we can actually hug a person, or we can feel a hug from our wife, or we can go do whatever, or we can sip a coffee and taste it. This is our heaven. Anywhere else where you cannot do that, where you're asleep or not conscious or dead, you're not in heaven. You're in, where do you go? Okay, so that we arrived at that. So now, so that's how we arrived at the whole deal. So we think, okay, the AM part. Where could the AM part go? Okay, the AM part could go into the little string that ultimately tangles to make the boson. You see what I'm saying? The Higgs boson they made. Okay, think like this. Okay, if all these little strings are all detached, they're just all strings. Now, back in the creation of things, back in the start of it. Now, back back when it came together, back when we, here's how this worked. We, all of us, all of life, everything that has a soul, not necessarily conscious soul, but a soul, which is the you part that you maintain as your am part, your I am, okay? goes somewhere when you die. Okay. There was this thing about, yeah, this weighing, how much does your soul weigh and stuff like that. It's like, well, it is pure uh, uh, um, uh, a tiny little piece of space time isn't going to weigh anything. Okay, you might consider it negative mass because it's the other side of things. If 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 it's not been so, if it's not a piece of actual matter, it's a piece of space time. It just divided up like that. And for simple terms, in the simplest terms you can think of, there's the space time and there's mass. Space time is vibrating, causes gravity. Well, it's the vibrating that causes the mass. The mass is brought together by pieces of space time that tangle together that make the mass. Okay, you following this one? See, this makes sense when you track it through all the way like this. So now, shorter strings of a certain tension, we'll call it a tensicity or stiffness. Okay, elasticity, elastomeric property, spring properties. Okay, will only bend and tangle at certain lengths. This we're gonna kind of quantize this for you, and in some math. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do it with hypothetical numbers because we're talking about hypothetical dimensions here. Anyway, we're talking about physical dimension of subplankton, uh, uh, subplankton. Okay, below plankton, shorter than that. So let's start. Let's go back all the way to go. Let's go all the way to. Let's go to before the Big Bang. Let's go to the place where all of where there's the root am. Okay, we might say call that the Godhead. You give it any kind of name you want. We're going to call the root soul. The root soul would be the root soul of all of life. Okay, that is everything that lives, everything that could ever live through all of existence that ever has lived or ever will live. Okay, got that straight. Now, see, that's a pretty big, encompasses a lot of stuff, don't it? Okay, so it was from there where the root soul, being totally lonely and totally abominated by being stagnant, okay, I am that I am, but I am not, so what shall we do? Okay, decided to go, okay, let's be all Zebub. And Zebub come over all of a sudden out of self and says, sure. And that's where the next one comes up, and the next one comes up, and the next one comes up, and so the I am root I am life all of life became the souls of all of life. Okay. Okay. So abiding in those souls, then what? Then each soul is a. How about this? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I dare you to prove me wrong. Tiny little jazz hands. Okay. Okay. So every soul is a set of tiny little jazz hands. Okay. That goes and hangs on to and grips hands with another one, and another one, and they make a string. Okay. So these tiny little jazz hands grip on like hell wouldn't have it. Okay. To each other. Only so many can grip to one because they all, they're strength because they're magnetically connected. Okay, they're strength. Okay, their length is limited. String this long. Okay. Let's say a string 3 phalanges long. Okay. Okay, it can wrap around another string 3 phalanges long, but it won't get all the way around it. It won't tangle. However, one string, okay, that's 5 phalanges long could tangle around another one that's 5 long. Could tangle one that's around 8 phalanges long. Called phalanges, my fingers. So it could be digits, could be any number, anything you want to put it to it. It's imaginary number. Okay. The point is that if you cut a bunch of ball of string up, okay, and you throw it in a box, okay, some of the strings will tangle and some won't. The ones that tangle will be the longer ones. Okay, the ones, okay, the longest ones tangle and the shortest ones don't. The longest ones can entangle the short ones, but the short ones will never tangle to themselves. So what we have is Minkowski space and matter. At the point of, well, so let's go. Uh, uh, well, I'm really bored, really lonely, so we're gonna be all say bubs. So let's go on, do. Okay. So here we got, boom, all the souls. And all the souls are the jazz hands. It's like, okay, everybody shake hands. And that's when it all starts shaking up. And we get something called gravity. You got action. And this action is the driving force that causes the tangling of the strings. Okay? The tangling of the strings come together to make the standard model. Okay? So it was like this when they made the Higgs boson. They brought together a bunch of energy to cause these leftover strings to come together and tangle up and make a particle, and then it dissipates. Okay? So each of us, a tiny little jazz hand, every bit of life, every single solitary soul that ever could be, ever was, throughout all of existence, maintaining its oneness, its amness in a piece of space time, and every piece of space time is a soul. Okay, how about that? See, so we're taking the philosophy and the religion and the science, and we're going, okay. So now, but now, as this science, just from the science point of view, okay. So the piece space time, they make the particles come together to make the standard model. That comes together to make the atoms, make the molecules, and voila, we got life. Okay, so as far as where we go, this all this other stuff, this philosophy, that's part of the religion. It's because it's the philosophy. Faith, faith in the philosophy of science and religion. So basically, string theory, uh, um, its theory is backed up by math. Philosophy can't be backed up by math. So going, okay, well, all our souls, every one of us, each I am that I am part of us, each one of us that says our centered being, our consciousness, being a part, being a tiny little jazz hand in a piece of space time, okay, that is philosophy. The difference, understand the difference. But see, we have the foundation of the new religion that'll bring you to your knees. It's called the faith in, oh, yeah, the faith in the philosophy and science and religion, if you please. Oh, okay, back to the story. Boy girl story. Tornado story. The living tornado story. The relationship vortex. So the relationship vortex goes on, and and on with other relationships. And people do it all the time. They have no idea what kind of damage they leave in their wake. People do it with their kids. You know, people leave. So here's this story how it ends. Person A still lives still lives where they live. Person B moves out. Person C moves out with them. Person A leaves belongings with person B leaves belongings with person A. Person C leaves belongings with yours truly, person D. Okay, so we're at, see what we're doing. See how this? If you think of like in that thing, each little speck is something is a soul and a person, and then up here at the bubble, the couple driving the vortex, and the vortex touches down, and it draws all kinds of people into it, and people couple, they're doing it. So we have belongings of person C, belongings stored on a porch for a long time. We tell person C finally, if you ever come up with we would go, okay, we really like person C. Person C is not is a really fairly kind person, and got a good soul and heart. Deserves to be uh, deserves to have a break. And we told him we never, nobody ever really gave me a break. It's had to struggle and fight and tooth and nail for everything, and hanging on to relationships and belongings were the hardest thing to do. Getting them, getting belongings, getting them was so hard. Hanging on to them was the hard part. Getting relationships, well, that seems to be kind of tough. It's a little tougher nowadays than it was in the past. Because, I'm older and uglier, I guess. But, so anyway, so we tell person C, we'll hang on to your belongings as long as necessary. You got a place, though, we'll bring them to you. To expedite their belongings to them would be advantageous to us now, because we're still, well, we got a lot of stuff. We're still trying to find homes for a lot of belongings. We're trying to organize still, trying to set up our studio and all that stuff. We're in our studio. I got a living room in my studio. But we're getting together slowly but surely. We're getting that together. It takes time. It takes not being interrupted by idiocy. Oh, and the weather. See, that's another. Those people. Everybody. Every time a tornado comes through one of those towns in like Oklahoma or Wichita, Kansas, it destroys lives. And floods. They destroy lives. See, we have a solution, really. It's not an immediate solution. It's something that's going to take a lot of work to get to. part of the whole, part of the whole solving the inertial propulsion equation, and developing the G unit is part of that is being able to come to getting it. It is interfaced and coupled with developments of space cities and space colonies. Space City 1, Space City 2, Space City 3 and 4 and 5, all the way up to even bigger ones, massive space colonies. You know, see, that's the thing about that. In space, let's get on that subject for a second. There's a rotational thing, not a vortex, but it's still rotational, so let's talk about it. So, out in space, it's floating. It's zero G. It doesn't, something in space doesn't need a framework to stay together. The only the only reason you need any kind of framework is to compensate for gravity. So once we get things in orbit and it's out there, we know we create the gravity we expose it to. We know which way the gravity is going to be coming from. The gravity is going to be a push from the center outwards. That's how that works. Actually, it's a push. See, because something that's traveling in a linear path, it'll go straight to you. Something traveling in a linear path. Okay, if it's redirected, okay, it's being pushed that way. It's being pushed that way. Okay, if you're if you're if you're here and you're here and you got something doing here like this, you do that. When they come in contact, it starts getting redirected. It is the two pushing on each other, creating a force. Well, see, it's the Casimir force. Well, I mentioned that already, didn't I? You need to read that paper. It's very, very interesting. We need to read it some more. Read it again. We need to find it. We read it once years ago. No, we didn't. Where did we read that paper? Where did we find that paper? Anyway, maybe it was in a dream. Maybe I already know it just because. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's where gravity comes from, and it is a warping of space time. It's the Casimir force, the the density of space time and the frequency that it's vibrating, the overall intensity that 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 space time is vibrating at determines the strength of gravity. Okay. It also the strength of gravity then because of the density of space time determines the passing of time. We got this figured. Does that all make sense? It all works out, right? So ultimately, in this new religion thing, as the souls, you know, we possess within us. There's one consciousness, but under this principle, every piece of space-time in Minkowski space, having being a string made up of multiple units that string together, which each particular unit is a particular soul, means that within us we carry around billions upon billions, trillions upon googleplexes of souls. Interesting to think about like that. It's a piece of time. Minkowski space is like, say, 1,000 souls all strung together, tiny jazz hands hung together. Well, maybe they're shorter than that. Who knows? There's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. There's no way of ever knowing this thing. It is among the things we can never know. Ho 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 ho. Ho 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 ho. What you doing, Beans? Look alive. What are you doing down there? Huh? This pipe makes a nice vortex. Put the flame to it. the life where that had a lid. Did something to it. Yeah, so here's the thing. So me taking person B's belongings being tossed out by person A ultimately after doing the favor for person B for keeping the belongings for a long time. All right, that's that bubble eventually settling down. Ultimately, once the bubble settles down, then the vortices they create, or let me say it that way, singular, the vortex it creates, okay, eventually ropes out, and you have just a little bit of action until it all goes away and the debris settles. So basically, we're about ready to settle some debris. We got to figure out how to get to Vegas. Let's rent a car or rent a truck. There's not that much stuff, but I guess we can take some of her mom's stuff. The person A is her mom, by the way. Person B is her mom. Person C is mom. You know how that works, right? I'm trying very hard not to mention names here. Anyway, so I get this project I got to finish up motor. That's part of the next vortex. Okay, squirrel cages make a nice vortex. You can't see. They make a nice vortex when the inlet. You make the squirrel cages doing this, and they have that inlet right there, and that picks up the still air and brings it into a circular fashion as it brings it in. Basically, all the all that blower is a strictly pump for air. So we have this blower motor that we ordered. We've adapted, modified, created standoffs. We've got to go put this in. It's part of that. Part of today's vortex. You don't have to be part of that, or you could be, I guess. I could video that and post it. I have so much other stuff. See, that's not the important stuff I want to be videoing and posting. I got enough of that kind of crap. I got days and days and days and days and days. I got weeks and weeks and months and years of stuff to put out of that kind of stuff for. Oh, there it is down here. Okay, for a life recycle. This is funny. I've been using this lighter. I've been using this lighter. It's a camel lighter. Using it to close off the bowl, and the camel's turned into a buffalo. You can see that. Yeah, that's funny. So, uh, so anyway, so that's how that's going to ultimately rope out, so to speak. If you will. I'll use some twister terminology. Something in the news kind of bothering me. All this shit, it all bothers me. This guy Floyd, George Floyd, got I guess got in the way of a cop's bullet. Now they're rioting over it, protesting and rioting. I saw, I saw flames. I saw islands in the street, in the median, the middle. You got sometimes they have this medians, island median in the street on fire, something on fire in the middle of it. Then a building's on fire. They won't let the fire department get to the fires. They just burn. You'd think by now, see, that's the thing. You'd think by now, after so many eons and eons, and you have no idea how many tries has gone down before this one. I'm talking about this universe. There's been other universes before this one. This isn't the last one to be. They sprout into existence. Poof. There you go. They start expanding, creating. Anyway, you'd think after all the time that's been allotted for authority figures to learn the psychology of protesting mobs and how not to escalate a situation. But no. See, mankind, to me, I see mankind like this. Mankind is like the child next door. Okay? Really curious, really into stuff, really does whatever. But when it comes down to learning the most important stuff, goes to closed ears and becomes ignorant of it. And the most important things are that exactly how to treat other people. If people treated each other right, there wouldn't be any protests at all. That's the bottom line of that one. Let me say it again. I'm putting reverb on. If people treated each other right, there would be no protests at all. Right? Isn't that logical? Isn't it the highest wisdom? Just treat each other right. Make sure everybody has what they need. If everybody had what they needed, there wouldn't be people getting in the way of cops' bullets. There wouldn't be the need for the cops' bullets. You understand what I'm saying? If there was no hardship in this world, because everybody's making sure everybody's taken care of, okay? There would be no need for the cops' bullets. There would be no need for the armies. We'd all be just taking care of each other. Been preaching this since the very first time we started Space Time. We've been talking about this, trying to tell y'all the highest wisdom versus the foolishness you seem to muck and mire in. And it breaks my heart. It breaks our hearts. The 60 quadrillion Googleplexes of us that are here. I'm including all the space-time that moves around with us, that takes up the space in between the molecules, between the atoms, in between the electrons and the protons, and the neutrons, and in between the things that make those up, the particles, the spaces between the bosons. Space-time takes them up. Space-time is there. The Space time is everywhere, and we are all in space time. Space time, space time. We are all in space time. Da, 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 da. So we need. Oh, it's getting warm. I need to put on some working dad chair. Pick something to work in. Something to go install a blower motor. It's cute, flexible, lightweight. And then maybe something underneath it. Oh, here's the stand. We've been looking for this. Oh, okay, so what camera should I use this? Should we put it on? Maybe go ahead and use this. Put the Sony in. This is such a ratty ass tripod here too. God. Anyway, all right. So later, we'll worry about tripoding and cameraing later. Right now, this way. Which means I hurry. We need to hurry our butt to get out there and get this thing done. Be short, which is fine. Oh. Show you guys this. The coffee maker thing. Oh, I did, that even was not a cup. Oh, I did tea because I'm out of creamer. Anyway, here, this is that thing that the neighbor gave us. The neighbors next door who are friends now. Yeah, and this without the coffee maker thing, and I put grounds in. Watch this for us. You can see it now. Watch down on it so you can see it. There it goes. I don't know if you can see that. There it goes, touching down. There it is. Nice, huh? All right, I need to make a cup of coffee in this thing now. So, get change of clothes. It's getting warm. God, it's getting warm in this. Oddballs. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you mix coffee there. Spent ground. Compost. Uh, okay. 10, 6. Hey, cat. No. So it's getting worse. You got a leak there or something. You got a leak. Okay. Well, we got to get. Okay. I'll be right over there. Let me get done. I'm making a cup. I'm making the pot of coffee with the thingy you gave me. Watching one of my morning vortexes, vortices. One of my morning vortices. Yeah. And then, yeah, yeah. You know, streaming live right now. Your phone call is live on YouTube right now. By the way. I was about to end the stream, but I've been doing the morning stream like I told you I was going to be doing. You know, my daily vortices. Yeah, and we're streaming right now. So let me end my stream. I was going to be ending anyway, and we'll come and check out your water situation. I'll be right there. Okay. All right. We'll talk to you in a minute. Just need the water on it. All right. All the white sugar's gone. Mice. Damn mice. All right, well, we're going to install this motor, but before that happens, we got to go see about the water pressure problem next door, and the unit next door. Okay. Crappy tripod. Using. All right. Oh, there's that. Coming in the window and doing it. All right, here we go. You see the vortex? Come on, baby. There we go. Touchdown. You see the debris. There we go. Hey, Jenny, how you doing? Okay, well, we're just, about. We're just. What do you mean, cool? It's a daily thing. But what? Here's what's different. Now the world gets to see how it starts. See, there it is. So now it's you. So I'm getting ready to. I was gonna go. Got this motor. I just got through talking to everybody. We were talking. Yeah, my life eating right now. So still, I'm in the defeat of every day. Been doing it. It helps me a lot. Just I'm calling it our daily vortices because it's like my life is like a tornado, you know. And so it's like, well, today, what today's subject was? Telling a story about the neighbor, about the neighbor and the breakup that they had, and person A, person B, person C, person D. Person D is me, myself, and I. Yeah, well, person A, person B break up, person D's involved, got person C is involved, got person C stuff. End up taking person C stuff too then before it's over. See, so that I was explaining how that works. I showed them my little model. I've got these little models that I used to make these when I was young, when we were studying this. Oh, we've always been fascinated by the twisters, right? So we would make these models that you like out of a mayonnaise jar. In this case, these are apple butter. I use a lot of apple butter these days. So, because I live off the spoils. That's how deities are supposed to do. So, anyway, so so these things, there's a little. You fill them up. You take the label off. It kind of floats. You could put some stuff. Well, the stuff that doesn't really float, you want it to sink to the bottom. Is the idea. And then you fill it with water. Okay. And they got to be little lightweight fragments of stuff like confetti and whatever. Fragments of paper and sawdust work, you know, they are really light and they pick up real easy. It lets you see the vortex very early, the vortex very early. I keep messing up like everybody does with soli and solo, getting them backwards. I've been doing that a lot. Vortex is singular, vortice is plural. Soli with accompaniment, and solo without accompaniment. Okay? All right, so now we'll get it all straight, everybody's straight, including the rest of the world. So now out of these models, so what you do is there's this bubble, almost completely full of water, except you leave a little spot, you leave about 1/8 of an inch, and you put the lid on it, it leaves a little bubble at the top. Well, you can take that bubble and warble it around in a circle, and it makes a vortex. And you can see it make a funnel, and the funnel goes down, and it starts picking up debris just like a tornado. And it looks just like a tornado when it touches down on the ground. And you can speed it up. You can go really slow to simulate a low-speed tornado, or you can go really fast to simulate a high-speed tornado. So it's like the first time I showed them this yesterday. It's hard to see on the camera, but here, I think I'll get it. Right. So I showed him an F5. The way you do the F5 is you swing the jar around like this, and so the rocks move around on the bottom. Actually, see, there's F7, F6, and F7 now. You know that. Yeah, they raised the Fujita scale. They added 2. But, so I had to change my joke. Okay? You know what my joke is? There's an F scale above F7. You know what that is? It's still an F scale, but it's not the Fujita scale no more. It's the bejesus scale, because you see that thing, you say, fucking bejesus, motherfucker, that's big. Yeah, the bejesus scale. It's still an F rating. Yeah. So wait till the storm chasers catch that one. No, actually, I think I've told that one a few times. It hasn't made it back to me yet. I told it back when it was F5 only, and then what do you call an F6, an F7? It's still, it's a bejesus scale rating. But then they changed it. So now I got to go above that. So there's a point in between. So see the strength. Here's the deal. All storms are driven by these things. The ones in the ocean drive the storms on land. The ones on land are sub effects of the ones in the ocean. Yeah. See, a lot of people don't even really realize that it's the weather patterns that occur over the waters of the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans the biggest bodies of water that determine the weather patterns of the planet. I mean, of course, they're driven by land mass and other stuff, other things. You could drive the wind flow and direct it different ways, but primarily it's the oceans, the temperature of the oceans, what happens, the differential potential between the temperature between the poles and the equator, and the rotation of the Earth drives the weather. And then also, there's also other factors, planetary factors, the moon phases, and where the other planets align too, that you could, because they affect the tides, and the tides are the oceans. Pretty cool, huh? Logical when you put it all together. It makes all makes sense. Well, just like that thing we connected the theory of everything, and by doing one thing, that's modifying. That's by taking string theory, going, well, let's think of strings. Think of the strings as short tensile strings, like little hairs or little kind of springy things, not being long. They have different lengths, of course. So at some time in the past, before ever was anything, the strings are tangled because we all decided to start shaking hands, our tiny jazz hands that we are, that make up space time. And of course, only so many of us connect together in one to make a string or whatever. And so some strings are shorter than others, and the shorter ones can't tangle, and the longer ones do, and they create the particles that make up the standard model. Which, well, we didn't get into that with the audience yet. Is there was that point where as they cling together, of course, what do you get? You get the spheres only come up. You can only have so many protons. It only gets so big, right? Okay, so it gets so big, you get another one. They push together by this has one force, gravity, and you get uh, uh, um, and at a point where there's no other force than everybody shaking hands. That said, before the Big Bang, okay, before this universe, or before the universe, before this one, or any other universe that ever happened. Okay, back from the stagnation, out of the stagnation, everyone starts shaking hands, and we start making particles. The particles come together to make the primary mass that is the root mass that makes the universe. That is to say, the giant, supermassive, super duper, colossally massive black hole. We didn't get into that with them, see, but there's no mathematical model for how big a black hole can be, and black holes swallow each other, right? That's the recollection of the matter back into the universal matter. The black hole is universal matter, okay? When you think of it, can you imagine that? Okay, right. Now, so this dark matter we're talking about happens to be gravity. It happens to be the lower frequencies that exist in in space time, driving things apart because there's no lower frequencies than that. The lowest frequencies are driving things apart. See how that works? Can you imagine? Okay, so see, so if you have masses that are far enough apart for a wavelength to get between them, and if that wavelength is greater between the two objects than it is on the outside, you'll have repulsive gravity. This is the Casimir force theory. There's a paper that was written in 2004. We think we've read it. We don't know. Somewhere along the way, it popped into our head that gravity is the result of the vibrations of space-time, quantum vacuum vibrations, if you will, whatever. Okay, so um, somebody wrote a paper in 2004. We don't even know who they are. Okay, so but we're going to find the paper, read it again. If we never wrote it, we're going to read it once. We're going to read it. We have to read the paper, even if I never read the paper, and this popped into my head just because of reading everybody else's papers and thinking about it and all that other stuff, you know, because there was a paper written in 2004. I got to read it, right, right. right? Yeah, right. If because there was a paper about the subject, I have to read it. Even if it's my idea of the subject was my invention, okay, which happened after, or happened before I knew there was a paper about it. You understand? So in other words, see, coming up out of mm, the clouds of debris that's left by the vortex, by the twister, the tornado. Anyway, so here we are. I need to get in motion here, so I'm going to put you on speakerphone so that I can be in motion. Okay, um, so I was getting ready to just telling everybody we're getting ready to go. We got this motor to install, this blower motor. It's been we ordered it, we have it ready to install. Now we had to adapt the brackets and shit, and so it's ready to install. We're going to go do that, and then right then we get a phone call from one of the tenants. They've got a water problem, so we got to go deal with this water problem. So I'm going to keep you on the line, and we're going to go deal with that. And we're going to say goodbye to our audience for now. We're going to say thank you all for tuning in, whosoever tuned in. Okay, we're not even looking over. Okay, we got one person. It doesn't matter. It's a video. You can watch it later. Whoever didn't tune in will tune in later. So, yeah. But we'd like to say thank you. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. Please comment. Please comment so I have more people to talk to other than more than just my uh, uh, this person that calls me to get that this person's by I want my audience, you people to know this person gets paid to call me on a regular basis, okay, at a specific time. And then he comes and meets with me when we're not on quarantine. And you know what? Be honest, we need more than that, just like everybody else does. So, YouTube is one of our main platforms. We're out there on the internet and we're out on Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of places, and we really need to interact with the human race. Really, really, really do, like everyone else does, like you two do. And so it's like, will you somebody comment, please? Say something, please. Okay. In the meantime, have a great day. Stay safe. Stay, um, stay home. Stay indoors. Oh, here, trying to get to the wrong side. Something coming from Facebook. Okay. Stay safe. Stay indoors. If you go out in public, wear a mask. Okay. If all at all possible, if you have one. Okay. Wash your hands when you get in. Okay. Don't touch your face until after you've washed your hands. Uh, okay. That's pretty much it. So you have a great day. We'll see you later. See you tomorrow. We're going to do it again tomorrow. Our daily vortex.